and others of us tarry a while on the different floors, perhaps exploring psychic phenomena, or stopping at the floor where we're looking for a guru, or maybe it's exploring the healing modalities. But we cannot miss one story. There's a story about King Akbar. Now, King Akbar, like many kings, was self-centered and opinionated and arrogant, but he did have a modicum of enlightenment and discernment. But he would oftentimes go out into the towns and the villages to seek the adulation of the populace. But there was an occasion when he asked that everyone who wanted to should paint a portrait of him. And if the portrait was a good likeness, he would give them a quantity of gold. Now he went from town to town, and as we well know with the nature of people, they painted him in his best form. So when he looked at these paintings, he discarded them, knowing that they were not true likenesses. But he came to a certain town when a young boy carried a small parcel to him, and the young boy stood in the queue waiting for his turn to come up to present his portrait. And when he did, and one of the attendants of King Akbar took off the wrapping and handed to him, first of all, King Akbar scowled in anger. But then he began to laugh, because what had been handed to him was a mirror. And he said, well, yes, this is not a portrait, but it is certainly an accurate likeness. He said to this young boy, giving him the ring that he had on his finger, when you grow to manhood, come to my palace, and I will employ you. So the time passed, and this young boy grew to maturity, and taking the ring that he'd been given, he went to the palace of King Akbar, and there he was taken into the employ of the king, and very, very rapidly became his closest confidant and advisor, and was known far and wide, lovingly, as Birbal, an honorific name. And perhaps you'll remember this story about that certain monastery, the head of which was an abbess of great renown, known for her wisdom and her discernment. Those who came sometimes just came for advice, and others came seeking entry into the monastery to learn what there was to learn. But when they came, the abbess would test them carefully, and sometimes she would take them by the hand and lead them out into the garden. And there she would point to a small opening in a hedge, saying that they must follow the path that lay beyond the hedge. Well, those who did traverse the winding pathway and then turned a corner. And when they turned the corner, in front of them was a large mirror blocking the path. Now those who looked in the mirror oftentimes saw reflections of demons and ghouls and other frightening things which made them run away. Others looked into the mirror and saw their past relatives who have long since gone. Some tried to climb beside the mirror and found themselves in a wilderness of bracken, thorns, pathway barred. Others threw stones at the mirror to try to crack it, to open the path for them. And there were those few who pressed their nose against the mirror to find that it disappeared before their eyes, and they found themselves in a place unknown, a garden of great magnificence. And there in front of them stood the smiling abbess, and she handed them a shovel. So the questions that are asked: what do you recall as that moment when you began to see life as a reflection? When you saw anger in someone, thinking, oh, if they have anger, then I must have anger in me. I better address it, and so forth, and so on. And the moment when the mirror disappeared, the moment when we pressed our nose against the glass, and where in the sequence of the stories 1 to 9 would you place this time when life is a mirror? Is it the 4th, the 8th, the 3rd? What is your recollection of this floor, one of those between the 9 stories, the lift of the spiritual path?